Evan Whitmore held Olivia Carter's hands tightly under the golden glow of the setting sun. The grass bathed in warm light. "Do you know?" He whispered, his voice trembling with emotion, "between the moments you laughed so brightly with my grandmother, and when you held up that ridiculous foam finger at the Yankees game, something inside me changed." Olivia stood frozen, her heart pounded so hard it almost hurt. "I don't want to pretend anymore," Evan blurted out, gripping both her hands as if afraid she might slip away. "Not to make anyone jealous, not to complete some plan, I just want to be with you. Truly, no contracts, no stages, just us." In that moment, amidst the distant sound of waves and the soft rustle of the wind through the old trees, two people who had stepped into each other's lives under the guise of a lie chose to love for real. But the journey that led them to this moment, filled with charades, misunderstandings, collisions of trust and fear, was far more thrilling and touching than either of them could have imagined. Are you ready to hear the story of how a simple girl from a small town completely melted the coldest heart in New York? If you love sweet yet profound stories about love, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to join us for more beautiful journeys. Now then, let us begin the story. The annual fundraising gala at the Westbridge Grand, amidst the glittering gowns and formal laughter, suddenly came to a halt, all because of a sharp shattering sound, the crack of a crystal glass against the imported marble floor. At the center of the stunned crowd stood Evan Whitmore, the owner of Whitmore Technologies, the man whose name echoed throughout Boston, frozen in place, his exquisite black tuxedo soaked in expensive champagne. The young waiter, trembling like a leaf, struggled to speak. Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." Evan said nothing. He simply brushed a crumb off his lapel, his gray eyes as cold and sharp as a blade fixed on the boy. 6 seconds ago, he said, his voice low and rough like whiskey smoke, "You still had a job." Across the room, under the dimmed chandelier light, Amelia Vaughn, the woman who once held his heart, watched it all unfold. Her red-lipped smile curled slightly as she whispered something into the ear of the foreign man beside her, drawing a pleased chuckle from him. 3 months had passed since Amelia had spoken her final goodbye, concluding that Evan was a man incapable of love. And tonight, she returned arm in arm with some aristocrat whose long, forgettable name Evan hadn't even bothered to remember. Lucas Harrington, Evan's best friend and also the CFO of his company, made his way over carrying 2 glasses of whiskey still swirling in their tumblers. "Same old you, huh? Stirring up the whole party." Lucas chuckled softly, casting a glance toward Amelia. "But she's watching. You know." Evan took the glass, his eyes still locked on the familiar silhouette. "Of course she's watching," he murmured, "because what exes always do watch to see if you're suffering. So, what are you going to show her?" Lucas asked, half serious, half joking. Evan narrowed his eyes, his jaw tightening, not the image of a broken man. He downed the whiskey in one swift gulp, then said with firm certainty, "I need a girl, not just for tonight, for the whole summer." Lucas frowned. "And where exactly do you plan to find one in the next 2 hours?" "Not here." Evan pulled out his phone, scrolling through it quickly. "How about Erica from marketing? Or that model from the last auction?" Lucas grimaced. Too obvious, Amelia would see through it instantly. Evan fell silent. Familiar faces flickered through his mind, but none felt right. Just then, the small staff door swung open. A girl backed in, expertly balancing a tray of food with one hand, while nudging the door open with her hip. Unlike the other servers, this girl carried an untamed air about her, unpolished, unforced, natural, like a breeze sweeping through an open field. Bright hazel eyes, a scatter of freckles dusted across her cheeks, and honey-colored hair hastily tied up in a messy bun. A simple image, but one that inexplicably struck something deep inside him. Evan leaned, slightly murmuring. Her Lucas blinked in disbelief. "What, that waitress?" Evan nodded, the corner of his mouth curving into a sly smile. Exactly her. Quite different from the type you're usually seen with Lucas, remarked, his eyes still tracking the petite girl. That's exactly why no one will think it's staged, which makes it all the more effective. Evan replied, a fleeting smile passing over his lips, as if a new idea had just taken shape. Lucas eyed his friend skeptically. You don't even know who she is. I just need to know she needs money, Evan said calmly. He nodded toward the girl's shoes, a pair of worn black flats with the faded logo of a small calf barely visible beneath a makeshift patch of duct tape. And I know if Amelia sees me walking beside someone this unpolished, it'll drive her insane. Lucas frowned and muttered, No wonder your therapist charges 3 times the normal rate. Adjusting his tie, Evan's eyes gleamed with that sharp, calculating glint, the same look he used when closing multi-million-dollar deals. I'll pay her enough for 3 months by my side, enough to stop worrying about rent. And if she says no, a faint smirk tugged at Evan's lips. Everyone has a price. It's just a matter of finding the right number. With that, he started striding toward the waitress, unaware that within mere minutes, his meticulously ordered frozen life would be upended by a girl from a small town called Willow Springs, a place with barely over 20,000 residents, a girl who was about to teach Boston's coldest billionaire what warmth truly meant. Olivia Rose Carter checked the time, 17 minutes left on her shift at this fancy event, and precisely 43 minutes to catch the last bus to Perky Beans, the cafe where she worked the night shift. Her feet throbbed from standing all evening, her cheeks ached from too many fake smiles, and the hairpins struggling to hold her messy, honey-colored bun in place felt like they were ready to surrender. Keep walking. Olivia reminded herself the mantra that had carried her through 6 grueling months in this city. 6 months of overlapping shifts, instant noodle dinners, and sharing a shoebox-sized apartment with 3 Broadway dancers who practiced tap routines before the sun even rose. This was certainly not the dream she had envisioned when she left Willow Springs. In her youthful daydreams, she had pictured herself working at prestigious publishing houses, not ferrying plates for people who could spend more on a single meal than she made in a month. Excuse me? A deep, warm male voice cut through Olivia's thoughts. She turned, pasting on the well-worn service smile, only to falter when she recognized him, the very man who had just fired a young waiter over a single clumsy accident. Up close, he was even more intimidating. The expensive cologne he wore carried an unmistakable whiff of power, and his steel-gray eyes seemed to strip everything bare. Would you care to try the crab cakes, sir? Olivia offered her voice, carrying the faint southern twang she always tried to hide. The man shook his head, then paused, his gaze turning calculating. Actually, I have a different proposition for you. Olivia glanced around, half expecting he was speaking to someone else. But when she saw his hand extend politely toward her, introducing himself, Evan Whitmore, flustered, she blurted out, Olivia Carter, immediately scolding herself, handing out her real name to a man who had just fired. Someone was hardly wise. Evan repeated her name as if savoring each syllable. Olivia. Then abruptly he asked, How much do you make here? Olivia froze. Sorry, what did you say? And at the cafe where you work nights? He added, his eyes flicking briefly toward her worn shoes. Survival instinct kicked in. Olivia instinctively stepped half a pace back, maintaining a careful distance. I think that's not really any of your concern, Mr. Whitmore? For a brief moment, she caught a flicker of something unexpected in his gaze, almost as if he wasn't used to being told no. I want to hire you. Evan Whitmore said bluntly, without a hint of preamble. Olivia Carter frowned, lifting her gaze to meet his steely gray eyes. I already have 2 jobs. Thanks, though. Evan showed no sign of discouragement. I'm offering a job that pays more than both of those combined, he said, his voice firm and unwavering. Olivia paused. Numbers flashed through her mind, mounting student loan debts. Her grandmother's medical bills back in Willow Springs. Bills she had no idea how to cover. What kind of job, she asked cautiously. Evan looked at her with the calm detachment of a man proposing a simple business transaction. Be my girlfriend? The tray in Olivia's hands nearly slipped. "Excuse me," she gaped. "Not a real girlfriend." Evan lowered his voice slightly, as if wary of being overheard. "Just show up with me at a few summer events. Help me drive my ex crazy." Olivia stood frozen, thinking he had to be joking. But the seriousness in his gaze left no room for that assumption. A small, involuntary laugh escaped her, that breathless, incredulous kind of laugh that made a few ladies nearby glance over disapprovingly. "You're serious," she whispered. "Very serious," Evan replied, his face unreadable. 3 months. Just public appearances. I'll cover all expenses plus $100,000. The number hit Olivia like a punch to the chest. $100,000. Enough to wipe out her debts, pay her grandmother's medical expenses, and give her a chance at restarting her life for real. "That's insane," Olivia muttered, unsure whether she was talking to him or herself. "It's just business," Evan said crisply. "I need someone truly different, someone not from this fake, polished world, someone who will make Victoria lose her mind." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "So basically you think I look small town enough to suit your plan?" Pride flared within her. But Evan didn't flinch. "No," he said, "because you're genuine, and in my world, that's rare." For a fleeting moment, they stood there, surrounded by the drifting strains of a waltz, two people from completely different worlds. Then Evan pulled a business card from his jacket and handed it to her. "Think about it. If you decide to accept Call Me By tomorrow." He turned to leave but glanced back once more. "Oh, and if you agree, you'll have to quit both your current jobs." "I require full commitment from my employees." Olivia clutched the card so tightly it crumpled in her hand. The offer was absurd, almost insulting. Yet as her eyes followed Evan's figure disappearing into the crowd of elites, her mind echoed with her grandmother's voice from their last call. "Don't worry about me, Libby. I'll manage somehow. $100,000. 3 months pretending to love a cold, calculating man." Could she convince others and herself that she truly cared for him? And could her heart survive such a dangerous game? 24 hours after nodding to fate, Olivia Carter stood frozen inside Evan Whitmore's penthouse, surrounded by 3 stylists buzzing around her like a disturbed beehive. "I really don't think this is necessary," she muttered, trying to hide her embarrassment as they measured every inch of her. "I happen to think it's entirely necessary," Evan replied, without looking up from the tablet he was studying, lounging casually on a sleek, modern sofa, all sharp lines and cold elegance, just like the man himself. The entire space, with its shades of gray, black, and white, looked like it belonged on the cover of an architecture magazine. "If we want Amelia to believe you are my girlfriend," Evan said in that same detached tone, "then you need to look the part. What exactly are you planning to turn me into?" Olivia crossed her arms, her gaze sharp and unwavering on Evan. The perfect high-society girlfriend who just doesn't know how to dress herself. Evan replied, a faint glint of amusement flickering in his eyes. For the first time since they had met, Olivia saw a slight softening in his expression. "If you're going to step into my world for the next 3 months." Evan set a smirk, tugging at his lips. "You'll need the right armor. Think of this as your battle gear." One designer was meticulously measuring her body, another fussed with her hair like it was some strange creature, and a third laid out a dazzling spread of lipsticks, eyeshadow palettes, and shimmering foundations. "We'll have to cover these freckles," the makeup artist muttered, unable to completely hide her regret. "Not a chance," Olivia fired back immediately, her voice firm. "My grandma always said, freckles are the sun's kisses." Evan lifted his head from his tablet, a flicker of surprise crossing his usually impassive face. In that tiny moment, Olivia sensed something real behind his gaze, maybe a hint of curiosity. "Keep the freckles," Evan instructed the stylist, curtly ignoring their disappointed looks. "They're her signature." It was a small victory, but to Olivia, it tasted indescribably sweet, and I keeping my southern accent. "Too," Olivia added, lifting her chin defiantly. Evan shrugged, utterly unbothered. I wasn't planning on hiring a voice coach. Just then, Lucas Harrington entered, coffee in hand, a grin playing on his lips as he took in the chaotic scene. "How's the Olivia makeover going?" Lucas asked, his mouth curving with amusement. Evan shot him a warning look. "I'm not some Eliza Doolittle, you know," Olivia said, tipping her chin at the two men. Both blinked at her in surprise, prompting Olivia to roll her eyes. "What, we have books in Tennessee, too? I have a degree in English literature for your information." "Perfect." Lucas chuckled, handing her a coffee. "At least someone in this house has read something besides financial statements." The hairstylist turned Olivia to face the large mirror, waving a comb through her wild hair. A sleek bob would totally transform her look. "No." The rejection came simultaneously from both Olivia and Evan. Their eyes met, startled, and for a moment, neither spoke. Evan cleared his throat and adjusted his posture. "Keep the length, just tidy it up a little, my hair is already tidy." Olivia protested. Evan glanced up the corner of his mouth, twitching slightly. "Really? Because you look like you stuck a finger in an electrical socket." "This is natural curl," she snapped back, "and it naturally defies gravity." Evan teased, his voice dry, but strangely not irritating. In fact, Olivia found herself laughing. Evan did too. A small, genuine smile, nothing like the polished smirks he wore in boardrooms. A real smile. Lucas silently observed the banter, a spark of intrigue flashing in his eyes. Evan closed his tablet and looked directly at Olivia. "We need to talk about your first public appearance." He pulled up his calendar. "The Morgan Foundation Charity Gala this Friday. That S where Amelia will expect to see me with someone." This Friday. Olivia's eyes widened. That S only 3 days. "Plenty of time," Evan said briskly. He pointed toward the racks of dresses being wheeled in by staff. "We also need to build a backstory. How we met. How we fell in love." Olivia bit her lip, thinking, why not stick close to the truth? She suggested. "We met at the charity event. You were impressed by my authenticity." Evan frowned slightly, considering, "And I pursued you until you agreed to date me." Olivia shook her head with a wry smile. "No. At first I kept rejecting you because I thought you were arrogant and selfish." Lucas nearly choked on his coffee from laughing. Evan narrowed his eyes dangerously. "And in your version, what exactly made you change your mind?" Olivia thought for a moment, her gaze turning wistful. "You started coming to the cafe, where I work every day, for a whole week. You wouldn't leave until I agreed. On the last day you brought a book, my favorite one, something I had only mentioned once in passing. Showing you had actually listened." The entire penthouse fell into a sudden, thoughtful silence. The atmosphere inside the penthouse seemed to freeze. Even the stylists paused their work. Evan Whitmore, a man always in control, appeared for a fleeting moment uncertain. The more genuine the story, the more convincing it is. Olivia Carter said softly, her voice gentle but firm. Their eyes met again, and this time, neither of them hurried to look away. Something unspoken, indefinable, flickered across Evan's face. Lucas cleared his throat, breaking the strange moment. "You should probably give Olivia a quick rundown on Victoria. Better to know your enemy." Evan quickly regained his composure. Amelia Vaughn, 32 years old, heiress to Vaughn, Enterprises, a media conglomerate. We dated for 18 months, engaged for 6. 3 months ago, she ended it all. Her reason was, "I am too cold." "Is that true?" Olivia's voice was light as a breeze, but the question cut like a blade. Evan hesitated for a beat, as if unaccustomed to being challenged. "At the time I was focused on building my career, I had clear priorities, and she," Olivia continued gently, "wasn't a one of them." Evan didn't deny it. "She knew who I was when we started. She understood. Understanding doesn't it mean she didn't hope you'd change." "Olivia," replied her gaze calm. Her words, so full of experience and empathy, even made Lucas fall silent, looking at her with new eyes. A designer approached, holding up a shimmering emerald green gown. "This color will make her eyes pop," the stylist said confidently. Evan stared at Olivia for a long moment. It was as if, for the first time, he wasn't just seeing her appearance but really seeing her. "Perfect," Evan finally said with a nod. "It'll be perfect." Olivia was led away to try on the gown, but as she brushed past Evan, she caught him watching her, and the look in his eyes wasn't cold at all. Perhaps this contract would be far more complicated than either of them had imagined. The night of the Morgan Foundation Gala, the crown jewel of Boston's charitable summer season, arrived. Held at the Temple of Dender inside the Museum of Fine Arts, the venue was transformed into a golden Egyptian dreamscape, with the sound of a string quartet floating through the air. Olivia's hands gripped the folds of her dress as the limousine pulled up near the grand entrance. "Remind me again, why exactly did I agree to this?" she muttered. Evan leaned back against the seat, exuding the casual calm of a man treating this like any other Friday night. "Because of 100,000 reasons," he said, half-joking. "Just remember, smile, stay close to me, and let me handle Amelia." Olivia smoothed the sleek silk of her emerald gown. The stylists had worked their magic. Her natural curls were released into soft waves, and the makeup enhanced her features without masking them. In the blurred reflection of the car window, Olivia saw a stranger staring back at her, and yet, somehow, it was still her. Unexpectedly, Evan spoke, "You look beautiful." The words slipped out as if he hadn't meant to say them aloud. Olivia turned to him, stunned, then offered a small smile. "Thank you." A brief silence stretched between them, filled only by the steady hum of the engine. The limousine stopped before the red carpet. Instantly, Evan shifted back into his polished, composed demeanor. "Ready?" he asked. "Nope, but let S do it anyway," Olivia answered, taking a deep breath. The door opened and hundreds of camera flashes exploded like fireworks. In a motion so natural, it surprised even her. Evan slid his arm around Olivia's waist, pulling her close, as if she truly belonged there. "Is that your new girlfriend, Evan?" A reporter shouted above the noise. Evan gave Olivia's waist a subtle squeeze and answered without hesitation. "Yes, this is Olivia Carter, my girlfriend." The word girlfriend rolled off his tongue like a strange new tide washing over Olivia. She reminded herself it is just acting a role, a contract. Inside the museum, every pair of eyes seemed to find them. Evan kept his hand on her back, the firm warmth of his touch, both grounding her and sending her heart into an unexpected flutter. "People are watching," Olivia Carter whispered, trying to keep a smile on her lips. "Exactly what I want," Evan Whitmore replied, his mouth brushing so close to her ear it sent a shiver down her spine. Then, completely unscripted, Evan reached out and gently tucked a loose curl behind her ear, a tender gesture so unexpected it made Olivia freeze for a moment. 7 o'clock? Evan murmured, his gaze never leaving her. "Amelia just spotted us." Olivia could feel the icy stare from across the room, but she didn't turn. Instead, she chose to be bolder. Olivia tilted her head back and laughed a soft, natural sound, as if Evan had just whispered something sweet. She leaned into him, her hand resting lightly against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath the crisp fabric of his shirt. Ad-libbing, Evan asked, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Didn't you pay me to be authentic?" Olivia replied smoothly. Her fingers traced along the edge of his bow tie. "The best way to drive an ex crazy," she whispered, "is to show them how happy you are with someone new." For a fleeting moment, something shifted in Evan's gaze. A flicker of admiration, something that hadn't existed between them, before the moment shattered when Lucas approached, champagne flute in hand. Amelia S., heading this way, Lucas warned under his breath. And she doesn't look thrilled. Evan tightened his arm slightly around Olivia. Perfect. Amelia Vaughn appeared gliding through the crowd like a cold flame. Her white dress hugged her slender frame, golden hair gleaming her aristocratic beauty, drawing every eye in the room. "Evan, darling," she cooed, brushing a kiss against his cheek. "No one told me you were bringing a date, Amelia." Evan replied coolly, his expression unreadable. "Allow me to introduce you. This is Olivia Carter." Amelia's sharp gaze swept over Olivia like a scalpel. "How charming," she said with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "So how did you two meet?" The question dropped casually, but the venom was unmistakable. Before Evan could answer, Olivia stepped forward slightly, her voice sweet. "At a charity event I was working and Evan was being. Evan let out a soft chuckle, his eyes on Olivia as if in that moment she was the only person in the room. "How adorable," Amelia said through gritted teeth. "And now you are no longer serving food, I assume." Olivia didn't flinch. "I am pursuing a career in publishing," she said lightly. "I have a bachelor's degree in English literature from Vanderbilt." One of Amelia's brows arched a glint of mockery in her eyes. How versatile, she turned back to Evan, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "This year's charity gala is hoping for sponsors for the children's reading program. Perhaps your girlfriend can help pick out some books for the little ones." The jab made Olivia's cheeks burn, but she held her smile steady. "Actually," Olivia replied in a gentle yet powerful voice, "I grew up in a small town where books were a luxury. I know firsthand the life-changing power a single book can have." Amelia's smile faltered for a heartbeat. "Thanks to Olivia's insights," Evan said, causing a ripple of surprise, "I've decided to double my donation to the reading program." Lucas nearly spat out his champagne in shock. How generous, Amelia managed to say, her voice tightening as she caught the subtle, almost unconscious gesture, Evan's thumb gently stroking Olivia's bare shoulder. "Enjoy your evening," Amelia said stiffly. "The Duke is waiting for me." She turned sharply, leaving behind a trail of cold air. Olivia exhaled slowly. "Did I do okay?" she whispered. "More than okay?" Lucas chuckled. "You were incredible." Evan said, his voice unusually warm. He took a small step back, adjusting his cufflinks as if to hide a flicker of something he didn't want seen. "Doubling the donation, that was impressive," he teased. "That wasn't tea acting," Olivia said, frowning. "I genuinely believe in that program." "Of course." Evan nodded, instantly slipping back into his polished demeanor. "I'll have the foundation review the specifics." The evening continued surrounded by Boston's finest. What Olivia hadn't expected was that step by step she was learning how to navigate Evan's world, a world dazzlingly bright, yet full of hidden shadows. And somewhere amid the polite handshakes and brittle smiles, she began to realize there was a very different Evan Whitmore slowly starting to emerge. Olivia Carter was surprised to find herself chatting naturally among Boston's high society. Though she lacked the polished glamour honed by years in that world, she made up for it with genuine passion, deep insights into literature, politics, and art, enough to make more than a few people actually listen. But what surprised Olivia even more was Evan Whitmore. On the surface, he still exuded effortless confidence and magnetic charm. Yet standing beside him, Olivia began to notice the small signs, the slight stiffness in his smile when conversations turned superficial, the way his shoulders tensed whenever he had to interact with business partners he clearly despised. "You don't really like these kinds of parties, do you?" Olivia murmured as they glided across the dance floor, his hand steady on her back. Evan lowered his head slightly, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, as if she had peeled back a carefully guarded secret. "What makes you think that?" "Because you're acting too," Olivia said softly. "Just like I am." They paused in the middle of a lingering note, their eyes locking in. Evan's steel gray gaze Something fragile shimmered a glimpse of the humanity he usually kept so well hidden. But then, like a reflex, the cold mask slid back into place. "Olivia," he whispered in this room, "everyone else acting that is how the game is played, but you don't have to play it," she replied. His hand tightened slightly on hers, a small but telling gesture. "Don't I?" The music swelled around them, pulling them away from the truth that had briefly surfaced between them. And Olivia realized that in just one night, the line between pretending and feeling had already begun to blur. 2 weeks after the gala, Manhattan was buzzing about the most unlikely romance of the summer. Page 6 dubbed them the Billionaire and the Bookworm, while social media exploded with endless debates over their storybook contrast. Olivia marched into Blackwood Technologies, tossing a tabloid onto Evan S.'s desk. "Have you seen this?" The headline screamed, "Billionaire Enchanted. Has the country girl captured Blackwood's heart?" Evan barely glanced at it before returning his gaze to his laptop. "James is handling PR. As long as Amelia S. reading this stuff, we re-achieving the goal." Really, Olivia perched on the edge of his desk, arms crossed. "We accidentally had breakfast at her favorite restaurant 3 times this week," she pointed out, shaking her head. "You're not even pretending to be subtle." Evan's mouth curved into his familiar lazy smile. "We don't have to be subtle. In the past 2 weeks, they had been seen everywhere. Fine dining spots, art gallery openings, even a Yankees baseball game where Evan had shamelessly bought Olivia a giant foam finger and a hot dog, a move that left the media stunned. But what the cameras never caught were the real moments Evan explaining the nuances of wine tasting while Olivia taught him the proper way to eat spicy fried chicken. She read her favorite poems aloud, and he took her into his private robotics lab, his quiet sanctuary, after endless corporate meetings. "We have a problem." Lucas Harrington burst into the office, a file clutched in his hand. Evan looked up. "Amelia just sent an invitation," Lucas said with a smirk. "She invited both of you to her family estate in the Hamptons this weekend." Evan's expression darkened. "Didn't expect her to be so gracious." "Oh," she said, Lucas made air quotes, "to officially welcome Olivia into high society." His voice was as bitter as a double espresso. Olivia lifted her gaze and said simply, "It is a trap." Both men turned to stare at her. "What?" Olivia narrowed her eyes. "Just because I am from Tennessee doesn't mean I don't recognize a queen bee setup when I see one. She wants to lure us in, test us, expose us." Evan considered this. "We could decline," he said. "Slowly, no." Olivia answered firmly. "Declining would be suspicious." Evan leaned back, studying her closely. "Meaning we'll have to act the entire weekend. No slip-ups, no escape." Their eyes met across the desk, a silent language they were becoming remarkably fluent in. Olivia arched a brow, half challenging. "I can handle it if you can." Something softened almost imperceptibly in Evan's eyes. "All right?" He nodded. "Tell Amelia we'd be delighted." Lucas left the room. Evan remained seated, his gaze never leaving Olivia. Only 2 weeks in. And yet somehow Olivia Carter, the girl from Willow Springs, had already begun to crack the frozen walls he had spent a lifetime building around his heart. After 2 weeks in Evan Whitmore's world, Olivia Carter had undergone a complete transformation in appearance, designer dresses, and elegant demeanor, each step carrying a subtle grace. Yet somehow she had remained entirely Olivia, genuine, intelligent, and full of life. A small corner of Evan's office had unofficially become her territory, a desk piled high with books, papers scribbled with story ideas standing out strikingly amidst the minimalist cold decor of Blackwood Technologies. Evan looked up from his laptop, his gaze unconsciously lingering where she was busy sorting through a stack of documents. "Is something wrong?" Olivia asked, catching his intent stare. "Nothing." Evan quickly returned to his emails, though the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. "We have another problem," he said after a moment. "Silence, even more troublesome than Amelia's trap." Olivia looked up, alert. "What is it?" "My mother called. She's read the tabloids." Olivia froze. "You have a mother?" Evan arched an eyebrow, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Most humans do, Olivia. I mean, you've never mentioned her. My mother, Margaret Whitmore, splits her time between London and our family estate in Connecticut. She's very traditional. He hesitated. She wants to meet you. To vet me. Olivia guessed, half joking. Dinner Sunday night. Right after the Hamptons trip, Olivia bit her lip. That wasn't a part of the deal. I'll pay extra, Evan said calmly. It is not about the money. She shook her head, surprising them both. It feels like crossing a line. Evan put down his tablet for the first time, giving her his full attention. Which line have I crossed? Not exactly. Olivia sighed. But meeting your mother, it feels very personal. It is just acting. Olivia. Evan reminded her, his voice low and rough. The words, sharp as a blade, cut into something soft inside her. Right, she nodded, forcing a smile. Just acting. The air between them grew heavy. I'll go, Olivia said finally, shrugging. But I draw the line at matching Christmas sweaters for family photos. This time, Evan laughed, a deep, genuine laugh so rare that even his assistant passing by the door glanced and startled. Later that afternoon, as Olivia was sorting through book proposals for Evan S. Charitable Foundation, his phone rang with a special ringtone, Amelia S. sharp-cutting laugh. Their eyes met before Evan switched it to speakerphone. Amelia. Evan S. Voice was icy. James told me about the invitation. She cooed sweetly. I assume you and your lovely girlfriend will attend. We were very much looking forward to it. Evan replied, his tone emotionless. Wonderful, and Olivia S. With you isn't a she. Hello, darling Olivia. Amelia sing-songed. Olivia leaned in toward the phone. Hello, Amelia, I am. Simply thrilled to welcome you both. Amelia continued. On Saturday, I've scheduled horseback riding. I am sure Olivia, having grown up in the countryside, is an excellent rider. Olivia could feel Evan tense. He remembered her confession that she had never ridden a horse before. But Olivia smiled warmly and answered, I grew up riding horses, yes. Nothing fancy, just bareback riding at my uncle's farm. Evan S. Eyes widened slightly in surprise. How natural. Amelia said, a touch forced. Just a heads up, my horse. Tempest is quite spirited. Only experienced riders can really handle him. The challenge in her voice was unmistakable. I look forward to meeting Tempest, Olivia said sweetly, her voice silky smooth. When the call ended, Evan turned to her, raising an eyebrow. You've never ridden a horse. Olivia shrugged her eyes, twinkling. I only said I look forward to meeting him. No one said I have to actually ride. A slow, genuine smile spread across Evan's face. You're getting better at this, he said quietly. Olivia smiled, rearranging the stack of files in her hands. I've been good from the start, you were just now noticing? Later that night, as Olivia was preparing to leave the office, Evan's phone rang again. Within seconds, his expression shifted. His usually composed features tightened and his shoulders stiffened. What's wrong? Olivia asked quietly. Feeling her breath catch, Evan placed the phone down, his voice low, almost stripped of all tone. My grandmother just had a stroke. He swallowed hard. She's at the hospital in Connecticut. Olivia clenched her hands. Oh my God, Evan. I am so sorry. Her voice cracked. The doctors, they're not sure yet. He said, already on his feet, gathering his things, with brisk, restrained movements, as if battling the torrent of emotion surging inside him. She asked the one who raised me after my father died. Evan Whitmore said, his voice barely more than a whisper. The confession so raw, so personal, hung between them like a delicate thread. Without thinking, Olivia Carter gently placed her hand over his. I'll go with you, she said softly, like a promise. Evan looked down at the small hand resting on his, then up to meet Olivia's eyes. This wasn't a part of the agreement, he murmured. I know, Olivia replied with a gentle smile, But not everything needs a contract. You shouldn't have to be alone. For a long moment, Evan seemed unsure how to react. Then slowly, the usual hardness in his eyes softened, revealing a rare, vulnerable part of him. My driver can take you home first. Evan offered quietly, one final warning. Olivia squeezed his hand lightly. I already told you I'm going with you. In the Bentley, speeding northward, they sat together in silence, but the silence was no longer cold or distant. Between them, the thin line separating performance from reality was quietly blurring into something far more dangerous, something far more real. Olivia thought to herself that a weekend in the Hamptons with Amelia might be nothing compared to what was really happening right now inside her heart. The hospital room of Eleanor Whitmore was nothing like Olivia had imagined. No harsh fluorescent lights, no overwhelming smell of antiseptic. Instead, it was a peaceful space, filled with soft, warm light, like a cozy boutique hotel, with large windows overlooking a meticulously trimmed garden. But what surprised Olivia most was Evan himself. The man she knew, cold calculated, now sat quietly at the bedside, holding his grandmother's hand, with a tenderness and fragility Olivia had never seen. You must be Olivia. Eleanor's voice rang out sharp and clear, her steel blue eyes almost identical to Evan's. Olivia stood hesitantly at the doorway. Come closer, dear. Eleanor smiled. Let me see the girl who has got all of Manhattan talking. Olivia stepped forward slowly, her heart pounding. It's an honor to meet you, though I wish it were under better circumstances, she said. Eleanor, the older woman, chuckled softly. Call me Eleanor, and donned a fuss a little strokes nothing, compared to raising this stubborn boy. She patted Evan's hand fondly, her eyes sparkling with affection. He's always been hopeless at romance. I told him that Amelia girl was all wrong for him, grandmother. Evan muttered, cheeks flushing slightly. I'm recovering. I'm allowed to speak my mind. Eleanor shrugged. She turned her sharp gaze to Olivia, a mischievous twinkle in her eye. You on the other hand? I knew from the first look a wave of guilt surged inside Olivia. You might not know everything about me. Olivia began hesitantly. Because he hasn't told me anything, Eleanor said lightly, and that's the clearest sign of all. Evan only brings someone to meet me when they actually matter. The room grew heavy with unspoken truths. Evan quickly stood. The doctor said, You need rest. We should leave. Before Olivia could step away, Eleanor caught her hand, whispering, Dante, let him push you away when he gets scared. He's just like his grandfather, always pushing happiness away when he starts to feel it. They stepped out into the hallway. Evan ran a hand through his hair, rumpling his normally impeccable appearance. Sorry, he mumbled. My grandmother's a bit blunt. Olivia smiled warmly. I like her, she reminds me of my grandma. May, never afraid to speak her mind. Evan let out a rare, tired laugh. Thank you for coming. You didn't have to. I wanted to, Olivia said simply. Those 3 words spoken so softly filled the space between them with a feeling neither knew how to name. That night at the Whitmore estate, an old colonial-style house surrounded by ancient maple trees, Olivia and Evan sat together in the kitchen at midnight, just the 2 of them. No wine, no staff, no performances, just them. Olivia Carter stirred a pot of warm milk on the stove, her movements slow and soothing, as if calming her own heart. She made hot chocolate the way her grandmother had taught her, from real melted chocolate with a pinch of fragrant cinnamon, not the powdered instant kind mixed with water. Evan Whitmore leaned against the kitchen counter arms, crossed his gaze following her every move. You don't have to pretend here, he said in a low, rough voice. No one's watching. Olivia stirred, gently smiling without turning around. I'm not pretending, she replied. I'm making hot chocolate because you look like you actually need it. She handed him a steaming ceramic mug. Their fingers brushed a fleeting touch, but heavy with something real. Evan wrapped his hands around the cup as if finding a warmth he hadn't realized he was missing. After a moment, he said quietly, "My father died when I was 8. Heart attack." Olivia stilled. She said nothing, simply listening because she understood how rare such words were coming from Evan. "My mother tried to manage on her own, but," he paused, his gaze drifting somewhere far away. "My grandmother stepped in. She taught me everything about business, about our family legacy." He looked down into his cup. "She also taught me that emotions make you weak, that in business and in life, feelings are a liability." Olivia tightened her grip around her mug. "Is that why you and Amelia couldn't last?" she asked. Gently. Evan was silent for a long time, weighing his words. Amelia understood the role. On paper, we were perfect. Same background, same goals. The company needed stability, needed the right image. "That's not love, Evan," Olivia said softly. "That's a merger, Evan." His eyes lifted, locking onto hers. "Then what about us?" The question cut through the silence like a blade. Olivia swallowed. "A business arrangement," she said, carefully, with very clear terms. "Are they still clear?" His voice was lower, almost a whisper. "Because I am starting to lose track of what's real and what's not." Olivia's heart skipped a beat. She opened her mouth to answer, but the shrill ring of Evan's phone shattered the moment. Amelia's ringtone. Evan sighed and turned away. "I have to take this. We still need to finalize the Hamptons weekend." The Hamptons greeted them with brilliant summer sunshine and schemes wrapped in glittering hospitality. The Vaughn estate, a sprawling white mansion perched by the sea, was packed with guests. Yet somehow it seemed every pair of eyes was fixed on Olivia Carter. "You are the hottest topic here," Lucas Harrington murmured as they stood near the bar, watching Evan get cornered by Amelia near the pool. "Back at the office there's even a betting pool on whether you two will be engaged before Christmas." Olivia nearly choked on her champagne. "Excuse me?" But Lucas raised an eyebrow. "I think something's changed." Before Olivia could respond, Amelia Vaughn materialized, smiling sweetly like syrup. "Mind if I borrow Evan for a bit? It is time for horseback riding." At the stables, Amelia introduced Olivia to a jet-black horse with a fierce, high-held mane, Tempest. "A bit spirited," Amelia said with a smirk, "but I am sure, growing up in the country, you were an excellent rider." Before Olivia could answer, Evan appeared, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. "Olivia," he said, voice dropping, "we agreed you to ride Mercury." He gestured to a gentle brown horse, standing quietly at the edge of the paddock. "But Amelia seems very keen on me trying Tempest," Olivia said smoothly. A flicker of understanding crossed Evan's face. "Amelia," he turned, voice soft but firm, "why don't you show everyone your riding skills first?" Amelia's smile tightened, but she had no choice but to mount along with the other guests. Evan immediately pulled Olivia aside. "You don't have to do this," he said quietly. "We can leave. We don't need to win." Amelia's little games. Olivia shook her head, her eyes shining. "This isn't about winning." Evan looked at her, something strange stirring in his chest. For the first time, he realized Olivia Carter had never been a pawn in any of his plans. She was the only one who had truly chosen to stay. Olivia Carter felt her breath catch. "What are you saying?" Her voice trembled slightly, like her heart pounding wildly in her chest. Evan Whitmore stood before her for the first time, not hiding the uncertainty in his eyes. "I am saying..." He hesitated, searching for the words, something that for Evan was always a battle. That somewhere between the foam finger at the Yankees game and seeing you make my grandmother laugh, something in me changed. What's happening between us? It's not pretend anymore. Olivia stared at him, her heart suspended midair. "I don't want to make Amelia jealous anymore," Evan continued, gently taking her hand, his fingers tightening around hers as if afraid she might vanish. "I just want to date you. For real, no contracts, no performances. Just us." Before Olivia could find the words to answer, Amelia's voice rang out, slicing through the moment. "We were waiting for you two." Evan didn't look away from Olivia. His voice came out steady, as firm as a vow. "No, we won to be joining." Amelia froze. Evan turned toward the gathering of guests, his voice calm but sharp. "Thank you for the invitation, Amelia. But Olivia and we have somewhere else to be. Somewhere that actually matters." As they pulled away from the mansion, leaving behind the curious stares and glittering traps, Olivia finally found her voice. "Where are we going?" Evan smiled. Not the polished, charming smile he used at galas. A real smile, shy, hopeful. "Willow Springs, Tennessee," he said softly. "I think it's time I met your Grandma May." Olivia froze, stunned. "You want to go to Tennessee? You?" "Yes," Evan said, tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear with gentle fingers. "I want to see where you grew up. I want to know the real Olivia." He leaned down, whispering, "And if you will let me, I want to tear up that stupid contract and start over. For real this time?" Olivia laughed through the tears glistening in her eyes. "You know, Grandma May's gonna see right through you. I am counting on it," Evan murmured. He brushed his fingers across her cheek, light as a whispered promise. "I'm tired of pretending, Olivia. I want something real." The car raced toward the glowing horizon, leaving behind all the lies, all the pretense. And Olivia knew sometimes the unexpected detours in life lead us exactly where we were meant to be. 3 months later, under a pale purple sunset on the old porch swing at Grandma May's house, Evan Whitmore knelt down. No audience, no cameras, only the chirping of crickets, the twinkle of fireflies, and a sincerity deeper than any vow. And Olivia Carter laughed, cried, and whispered, "Yes," to the man who had learned one simple, profound truth. The most precious things in life cannot be bought. They can only be earned with the heart. Later, Amelia Vaughn found happiness, too, with a French vineyard owner who truly appreciated her sharp business acumen. Lucas Harrington, proudly serving as Evan's best man at the wedding, didn't forget to collect his winnings from the office betting pool. Eleanor Whitmore made a full recovery and co-founded a new charitable foundation, with Olivia bringing books to underprivileged rural children. And Evan Whitmore, the billionaire, once thought too cold for anyone to reach, found his greatest treasure. Not status, not fame, but a heart capable of love, thanks to the ordinary girl he had once hired merely to play the part of a temporary girlfriend, proving once again that the most priceless things in life are truly beyond value. And so, amidst the cold calculations and the dazzling games of power, Evan Whitmore found the most precious thing of his life. A love that was pure, simple, and real, from a girl who never tried to fit into his world, but whose sincerity changed him. Instead, Olivia Carter didn't just touch the heart of New York's coldest billionaire. She taught him that the most valuable things in life cannot be bought with money or status. They can only be found through genuine emotion. They started as a performance, but they ended in true love. Some journeys may seem temporary at first, but in the end, they lead us exactly where we were always meant to be. If you also believe that real love always finds its way, even when lost among lies and schemes, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support inspires us to bring you even more beautiful stories. Thank you for listening. See you on the next journey.